All right, second college football playoff semifinal. It is taking place New Year's Eve night, Orange Bowl, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Georgia Bulldogs, Michigan Wolverines. We've got Georgia 7.5 to 8 point favorites, 45 being the total in this game. Can Georgia get the defense back on track here? Now, Michigan offensively, defending them is a completely different animal from Alabama because Alabama's got the speed at wide receiver. They've got the quickness, explosiveness through the passing game. That is not Michigan. Michigan is we throw when we want to or throw when we have to, and we rely on this ground game, and we rely on the duo of Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum. That's what's gotten it done all year for Michigan offensively. I think matchup-wise, stylistically, Connor, you can't help but think it's a much better matchup for Georgia's defense this time
Yeah.
around. The run-heavy offenses, that's where Georgia thrives. And that's my biggest worry with taking Michigan here. And you got to think Georgia, after kind of getting humbled a little bit by Alabama, there's an incentive toward them to, hey, we got to bounce back here in this game against Michigan. The number's a little bit lofty. I will say that. But to me, you look at Michigan throughout the course of the year, 223 rushing yards per game, 5.3 yards per carry. Terrific run offense. No denying that whatsoever. But here's a Georgia defense that, coming into this game with 82 rushing yards per game allowed and just 2.6 yards per carry. That is a paltry yards per carry allowance for this Georgia defense against the run. Can that run work? And if it doesn't work for Michigan, can Cade McNamara, the quarterback, do enough through the air? Can he burn Georgia's defense because look, Georgia now we found out in that Alabama game, there's some question marks about the pass defense. How could there not be? After what we saw against Alabama, can Cade McNamara in this game do enough through the air if the run game gets neutralized? That's going to be the big question. Now, we did see an improvement in McNamara through the air down the stretch, but they still fully relied more on the run game, and the passing game was offset, from what the run game was able to do. They've got to show that they can, have some success throwing the football as well in this game if they're going to have a chance at the upset here over Georgia. They need to get Roman Wilson involved. They need to get Cornelius Johnson, some of their better receivers involved. This would be one game you'd love to have Ronnie Bell. Now, this is a guy that you've been able to get to the playoff without him, but he's your most speedy receiver, your most dynamic, explosive playmaker at wide receiver, Ronnie Bell, coming into the year. And obviously he got hurt way back in September. This is one of those games, man, if you're Jim Harbaugh and you're that Michigan coaching staff, you would have loved to have him in this game because he's the one guy that can take the top off the defense. He's the one guy that could really, really threaten this all of a sudden secondary of Georgia that got a little bit exposed by the speed of Alabama in the SEC championship game. The problem is you don't have him on the field in this game. So, Connor, to me, this is probably a game I'm not going to have a bet on before because I don't think I can convince myself to bet against Georgia with I think a much better matchup for their defense coming off the embarrassment of Alabama. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm ready to lay more than a touchdown with them. What are your thoughts here? Orange Bowl, second semifinal.
Yeah, so what are you going to go off all year long? This team for 11 or 12 weeks just pound every team they played that didn't score more than 10 points a game, and then that was the ultimate kind of flat spot, But they got ripped again. Kirby Smart, he's got a problem with Alabama. Nick Saban just kicks his ass. He can't get it done. I think this will be easier for them. I just lay an 8.5. Are they going to get back to the Georgia team that just rolled? If there's any of that, I think they win and cover here. Michigan will have a tough time. Ohio State, we talked about how bad their defense was all year. I think Georgia, I think Michigan's gotten a lot better. I just need more points here than the 8 with Michigan. I want to take Michigan. I just don't know. They don't have the speed like you talked about. They don't have the athletes that Georgia has. So it'll be difficult for them. So to me, it's a pass. I'd lean under a little bit. I know it's low, 45. I think Michigan's defense could do pretty well. That could maybe keep them in this a little bit. But, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to bet this game either.
Now, there are ways to cover the number and even win this game if you're Michigan. The ways are very simple. Your offensive line was I can't believe how good it was against Ohio State, and that was an
Yeah.
eye-opener. They pushed Ohio State off the line of scrimmage all game long with that downhill run game. I need to see them do that against Georgia before I can believe they can do that. That's the thing, and because the strength of Georgia's up front, they just don't give you much running the football. Yeah, they look great, but come on. To me, I still can't. I'm not ready to compare and say, yeah, Ohio State's defensive line is what Georgia's defensive. It's not. You can't compare them. Georgia's is much better.
Yeah, Michigan got past the hurdle too. They beat Ohio State. Now it's like that's the year. Hurrah! Now you got to go play Georgia here in the Orange Bowl. I don't know. Can Harbaugh get it done? He better bring a lot of trick plays. Kitchen sink. Throw the kitchen sink here at Georgia all game long.
And the other thing that's concerning for the other pathway to maybe pulling this one off for Michigan is the uncertainty all of a sudden at quarterback now for Georgia. Stetson Bennett and his opportunity there against Alabama, that was a shitting of the bed in the second half by him in the SEC championship game. That was a bed shitting from Stetson Bennett. And now the question is going to be, and Kirby Smart hasn't said yay or nay yet. It's still many weeks from this game. Does he give Bennett another shot in a big-time playoff game, or do you roll back to JT Daniels? And again, if it's Daniels, he hasn't played in a while. How sharp is he going to be? How in sync is he going to be for Georgia? So there's questions.
I think you go back to Bennett. I think at least you go back to Bennett to start this one out for sure. But yeah, question marks.
Question marks indeed. It's a fascinating game. Really is fascinating. It's fascinating to see how that one unfolds for sure on New Year's Eve night, the second college football playoff semifinal in the Orange Bowl between Georgia and Michigan.